So, I'm sitting here with Marty Scurll. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thanks. The villain Marty Scurll. Yes,
the villain Marty
the villain Marty Scurll. Got to put that over. Yeah, I'm doing well. Back in Germany, spent many years wrestling in Germany. I think I first came to Germany in, my memory's really bad, but the early, maybe like 2010 or 11. But I've always enjoyed coming to Germany. Always really enjoyed wrestling for the German fans, so it's great to be back in Germany. It's a little chilly, but no, I love Germany, so I'm happy to be here.
But after that, it's getting hot, huh?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, well, actually, from here, from Germany, I traveled to Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And I assume that it's going to be warm there, so I've had to pack winter clothes and swim shorts and stuff. So, but no, it's cool, man. It's nice to be back. Yeah.
When you were talking about that you have made a lot of promotions, what is a special promotion or an event what you keep in mind always?
What do you mean? A favorite show that I've done?
Yeah, favorite show you've done in a favorite promotion.
Yeah, you know what? I've been asked similar questions many a times, and of course there's been matches that I've had that I love so much that were just great matches, and ones that come to mind, like wrestling Nick Aldis for the NWA World Heavyweight title. That for me was just super duper cool because me and Nick, we're both British, we both came from England, we started out together, we trained together, we've been best friends for years, so then years and years later to be fighting for like the World Heavyweight title, two British guys, the same belt that Ric Flair held, that Terry Funk held, it's just like Dusty Rhodes. That was really cool to me. And another match that comes into, obviously doing things like the Tokyo Dome, Madison Square Garden, all those were really amazing. But another match that maybe people don't really think of, it was in Japan. Yeah, it was myself, Hangman Page, and Cody against Tanahashi, Jushin Thunder Liger, and Rey Mysterio. And Liger and Rey Mysterio are like two my childhood heroes, like my two absolute favorites, you know, in the Mount Rushmore, all that stuff. And Tanahashi is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time as well. So being able to work with all of them in a 6-man tag, and also, I don't want to break kayfabe too much, but they all kind of let me like take control of the match as well, which is just so cool. Having like Rey Mysterio, Jushin Liger, and Tanahashi put that trust and the faith into me. That to me was a really big moment, and yeah, just one of those sort of pinch yourself moments, like, wow, this is so cool. So like, people may not even really necessarily remember that match, but like I remember it because of those exact reasons. So, but yeah, I mean, I've had lots of matches that mean a lot to me. I wrestled pretty much everyone that's great. I've had great matches with Chris Hero, with Adam Cole, with Ospreay, with Okada, with Kyle O'Reilly, like. Did I mention here? Like, so many guys. There's too many to mention. So I've been AJ Styles, like Bryan Danielson. These guys are just so amazing in the ring. Like, I pretty much had no choice but to kind of get good because I've just been so fortunate to wrestle against great wrestlers. So yeah, I've been very fortunate in my career.
You are naming your character the villain. It's iconic. How did you came the idea, and what inspired you to make this character?
I've been asked that question a lot.
I think I ask a lot of questions.
The answers are out there. I try to give a different answer every time. No, I think the villain character was created because I wanted to be different to everyone else. I see so many shows and so many people are doing the same thing, and I think, okay, well, if I'm doing the same thing as everyone else, how am I going to stand out? And I'm not the most jacked guy, I'm not the most agile guy, I'm not the best looking guy, but I was like, I can come up with a character that nobody else can do, and that's what I did. So yeah, it was kind of built out of this idea of being completely different to everyone else. Unfortunately, when you become successful at something, then loads of people try to copy, so then I'm like, okay, I've got to change even more, I have to adapt. So I mean, there's lots of inspiration from a lot of different things, but the main reason it was created is because I wanted to stand out from everyone else.
Okay. And you're saying you are not so the most agile guy, but you have a really good technique, I think. How do you inspire yourself to do that?
took a lot of influence from the British wrestlers from the 70s and the 80s, the world of sport era. I was very fortunate enough to be trained by a lot of the guys that worked in that era. I was very fortunate to wrestle a lot of the guys from that era, whether that be Steve Gray or Mal Sanders or Johnny Kidd. I was very fortunate when I started wrestling, those guys were still around. And that style of wrestling, I love so much, and it's very rare to see. And, I'm proud to be from Britain, I'm proud to be British. Wherever I go in the world, I like to represent my country and represent the style, which now doesn't really exist. There's only a few of us still carrying the flag doing that style. But as a whole, I try to watch as much wrestling as I can, and I try to take inspiration from all the greats, but try and make it my own. Again, just comes back to, I'm always thinking, okay, how can I be different? How can I do that, but put my own spin on it? How can I be different to everyone else? And it's a constant, like you said, it's like you've got to elevate your game constantly because everyone's doing so much good stuff. It's like, okay, how do I top that? How do I do one better? And a lot of times with me, I feel like it's more of a case of work smarter, not harder. So you're probably not going to see the villain do a 630 splash anytime soon, but you might see me have the crowd more rocking and rolling than anyone else. So I'm very competitive. Like to steal the show. I like to say when you see the villain live, you're seeing the greatest show on earth, and hopefully tonight at CoW, the fans will feel that. So, yeah.
You say there's not a lot of people who are keeping this British wrestling up. Who you gonna name, or you don't want to drop names?
I'm sure there's more than I know of, but honestly, like there's myself, there's Zack Sabre Jr., there's not a whole lot of guys. Another guy, Doug Williams, who wrestled a lot in Germany. I wrestled Doug a lot in my first years, and I took a lot of inspiration from him, and he was so good at that British wrestling style. Doug, I think, is retired now or semi-retired, so yeah, that kind of style of wrestling is going away. But I mean, I'm sure it's been a while since I've been back in England. I'm sure there could be some guys doing that style still, just I haven't seen them. So if anyone knows of anyone doing the style, let me know and I'll check them out.
In the factories.
Sure, right.
You are always changing between big leagues and independent promotions because you are traveling a lot. How do you keep yourself fit because America, then Saudi Arabia, everything that's going a lot on your focus?
Sure. Honestly, the traveling part is the most difficult part. The wrestling in the ring part, that's easy for me, right? Fine. That's great. It's the traveling. Even traveling here, I landed here this morning, but I had a layover in New York and my flight was delayed, which meant my layover, I had no time, so I had to run through the airport. It was just very stressful. And then you sat on a plane like this for hours and hours. It's very hard to prepare for, but here's the thing, like this is what I've done now for 20 years, and shows like this have, a big part of my career have been my bread and butter. I came up, like I said before, wrestling in Europe, wrestling in England, wrestling in Germany. I enjoyed it then, I enjoy it now, and it's funny, man, like I see sometimes, like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like a troll comment on social media now is, I've seen it not just necessarily for me, but for loads of people. Like, oh, you're in the basketball court, or you're in the high school gym, or whatever. And it's like, guys, like, it doesn't matter. Like, wrestlers will wrestle when they're booked. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're entertaining 50,000 fans, sometimes you're entertaining 50, right? But we still get to travel. We still get to do what we love. We still get to get paid. All this stuff. You know what I mean? And so, like, yeah, it's amazing if you're wrestling on a show that's like WrestleMania, but at the same time, it can be amazing wrestling in front of 100 people, right? It's just like, it is what it is. And like, wrestling has been so good to me in the sense that I've been taken to so many places. I've met so many people through wrestling, and I've got to meet so many fans as well, and wrestle in front of different audiences all over the world. I find it very hard to knock. I think, an independent wrestling, man, like, it's taken a bit of a beating in the last 4 or 5 years. And hopefully I'm giving back to pro wrestling, giving back to independent wrestling that gave me so much. Like every time I go out there, the villain doesn't phone it in. You know, when I go out there, I'm trying to put on the show of a lifetime, and I'm trying to steal the show. I'm trying to make sure the fans feel as if their money was well spent and it was worth it. And that's what you get when you book the villain on your show. But yeah, you're never going to see me phone it in. You're never going to see me be lazy in the ring, because I always give 120%.
That's cool to hear. But what I was asking is like, what do you do when you're on a plane or so to come down, to chill a little bit? Are you listening to music?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Typically on flights, I'm very impatient, so I always want to sleep. So I put my headphones in, I'll recline the seat, and I normally sleep like this. So yeah, I have to sleep on these flights because...
If not, you would be someone
yes,
like the
exactly.
nervous leg syndrome.
Yes, exactly. So I try to sleep. Fortunately, a lot of these flights now have Wi-Fi, which helps a lot. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, we didn't have any of that. I used to fly from England to Australia, no Wi-Fi, nothing. That's like 24 hours.
Like sleeping pills and then...
Yeah, if you can get them, then yeah. But I used to fly from England to Japan. It was like 14 hours, no Wi-Fi, nothing. Now, we're a little bit more fortunate. So yeah, the traveling part, it sucks, but you know, it's better than a 9 to 5. I'd rather do the traveling than sit in an office working. So
is there a dream enemy of you want to fight once, who you didn't fight yet?
I got a couple. Actually, there's loads of guys I'd like to wrestle.
Okay, your all-time favorite you want to wrestle once.
Oh, well, if it's like dream match scenario, I would love to wrestle with Eddie Guerrero. We're talking like current, I would love to wrestle Logan Paul, actually.
Yeah?
I'd really like to wrestle Logan Paul. Yeah.
Why?
I just think he's an amazing entertainer. I think he's great, and I think he's just phenomenal, and he's great on the mic. But then there's loads of guys I'd love to wrestle. Darby Allin is another guy that comes to mind that I think is really great and have a lot of respect for. You've put me on the spot now, but I'm sure there's still loads of guys out there on the independents, or even in WWE, TNA, even New Japan. Like, I'd love the opportunity to wrestle. Like I said, fortunately, there's a lot of guys I have, but another guy I never had a chance to wrestle was Alex Shelley. Somehow we never wrestled, and we were supposed to wrestle before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Before the pandemic came along and ruined everything, so I never got my chance to wrestle Alex Shelley. And now he's in WWE, so maybe that's a little less likely, but I hope before I retire, I get a chance to work with him. But yeah, there's lots of guys. I mean, if I had the chance to work with John Cena or Roman Reigns or any of those guys, that would be nice.
So perhaps you got a chance to get to the WWE.
I don't know about that. Maybe. We shall. I mean, honestly, I think if I did go to WWE, I think I could do some great stuff. I think they would sell a lot of villain shirts. Mm-hmm. I think their machine behind the villain would be a big deal. I know, I've had quite a few interactions with them in the past. Who knows? They always say in this business, never say never. Yeah. So who knows? I mean, it could be cool. Shall see. There's people going, no way, no way.
And then in 10 years, I'm like, I interviewed him. What?
Exactly.
You were also part of the Ballet Club. Mm-hmm. How would you sum up your time there? And what did you take personally out of this?
Bullet Club for me was more getting myself together, mainly with the elite. So mainly I felt less like a part of Bullet Club and more like a part of the elite. In myself, Young Bucks, Hangman, Cody, and Kenny. That I think was the bond, and that was, to me, it was kind of like all the top guys coming together to push each other to be better. And they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and we spent a lot of time together, and we all tried to, raise each other constantly. I think But I mean, obviously, when it was in Japan, we had a bunch of other great members, but I spent the majority of my time with those guys, and we just had such a great bond. And like I said, I think we brought the best out in each other. So, for me, that was the group.
Wrestling also changed a lot about the last years. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a lot of. You saw now Cody again, Kevin Owens. It all started about in social media and so. Mm-hmm. How do you think is social media involving now pro wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think anyway, ultimately, wrestling is just about making the audience feel something. So you can do that sort of any way you can. And they've used social media, and I think that's cool. I think just finding new ways to make your show different, finding new ways to get the fans interested. I think AI is going to be a really big thing. Like, I think now they can do concerts where they can like put, say, like Michael Jackson or Tupac's face on someone, and they can sing, and it shows the face, right? Who think like in the future, like WWE owns all these IPs. In the future, they might be able to do like Macho Man versus Eddie Guerrero or something. Who knows what the limit can be like? And here's the thing with WWE right now. I think I heard my friend say this, Nick, who I was talking about earlier. It's like WWE, they just keep getting bigger and bigger, and it's like, how big can they get? And I think the limit, I mean, could they be bigger than the NFL or the NBA? It's quite possible. I think with this Netflix move, I think a lot is gonna. I think people think wrestling's in a hot streak now. I'm kind of not so sure about that, but I think once it goes on Netflix, I think that could be really big.
I think it's always changed a lot since Triple H took over, that there's now a lot of fresh air getting into wrestling. But once back to your character as the villain, which match, in your opinion, represents your character, the villain, the most?
There's a lot of matches. I think the one that probably gets brought up to me the most is the match I had with, I wrestled Will Ospreay many times, but we had a match in the Sumo Hall in Japan. I think the show was called Sakura Genesis. We had like a near 30-minute match in the Sumo Hall, and I really kind of kick Ospreay's ass. Like I kind of bully him. We battered each other, to be fair. We really battered each other. But I think, for someone like Ospreay, I personally felt like I was a better opponent for him than a Ricochet, And that's not trying to take anything away from Ricochet or Will or their matches. But those matches, I guess, some people loved them, some people didn't really. But to me, I thought they were cool. But them both doing the flips is cool. But I think it was cooler when I was just me being a dick, being a villain, and just beating Will, boom, beating him up, and then he does the flippy stuff to beat me up. I think that was a better dynamic, personally. So, yeah, I think I had really good chemistry with Will, and I think we told some really great stories in the ring, and I think, I could really get that out of Will, and now, obviously, Will is the best wrestler in the world right now. So yeah, he's not saying I had anything to do with it. I absolutely did not. But he's on another level now, and I think that match people bring up to me quite often.
Okay. You also traveled a lot. You did Japan, you did America, you did Germany. How do you think that the styles are different? Is the wrestling in Japan different than America or the USA and Europe? And what's the main difference?
Yeah, I would say wrestling is different in Japan. It's different in Mexico. And then the rest of the world is kind of similar, I would say. But wrestling in Japan, they're very respectful of it over there. They treat it more like a sport. I really love wrestling in Japan, and I think the fans are great. But they treat it much more like a sport. Here and in America, I think they treat it more like entertainment. I'm not saying that that's like a good or a bad thing. I think it's great. And then in Mexico, it's like its whole own thing, right?
It's a religion there.
It's it's a whole different entity. So that's the thing with me, right? So many guys will go out there and think they're amazing at wrestling, or think they're over, or think they're the best in the world. And it's like, okay, well, I actually wrestle all over the world. I wrestled in 32 countries or something. I've wrestled everyone. I've wrestled every style. I've wrestled in front of every audience. You find a different audience to wrestle in front of, and I'll do it, and I'll captivate the people, right? It doesn't matter what language they speak. I find a way to entertain the people. And that to me is what being a true professional wrestler is. Like, just wrestling for the one company and getting yourself a nice following there. That's cool, but try traveling around the world. Try wrestling in places where they don't even speak your language, right? Try that. That's a task. And honestly, out of all the independent wrestlers right now, you know, people can say, oh, I'm the best indie wrestler or whatever. I'm the king of the indies, Matt Cardona. But honestly, maybe him, other than him, but like, I don't think there's an independent wrestler right now traveling as much as me. I really don't. Dude, I went from, I've been everywhere. I went from Austria to Saudi Arabia, to Canada, to Germany, to back to Saudi Arabia, to Puerto Rico, to Portugal, to Denmark. Like, no one can touch me in terms of traveling right now. I'm the one getting his ass kicked by all the traveling, but no, and that's what I do. Like, okay, I'm not you might not be able to see me on TV right now, but hopefully I'm coming to a town near you and you can come out and see me wrestle live. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
That was my interview.
Awesome.
Thank you
so much. Appreciate the time.
And the last words, I belong to you.
Hello! Am I supposed to sing now? No.
Okay.
Anyone watching, anyone that supports me or is a fan, just want to say thank you so much. I love my fans dearly. You've stuck by me all these years, and I really appreciate it. You have all allowed me to do what I love to do. So thank you for making my dreams come true. And I hope to see you all very soon at a local show. And if an independent promotion like CoW or any of an independent promotion comes to somewhere near you, please make the effort to come out and support us. Please support independent wrestling. Please just support professional wrestling as a whole. And remember, create, don't hate. That's what I'll say. That's why I'm showing you respect today, because you're doing something, you're creating something. I love that. I think that's great. So I wish you all the best of luck in the future.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.